Excellent. And I'll do a little intro and then we'll dive right in. Okay. Oh, and the dog.
Great.
So cute. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another LinkedIn Live on Remaking Medicine. My name is Emily Peters, and I am here today with the incomparable Ellen Lupton, the queen of typography, the author of more than 50 books on design, which is
30,
cool.
30.
And somebody who spent some time in her career dabbling in the healthcare sector. So we are very, very glad to have her here with us today. Thank you, Ellen, for joining us.
It's great to be here, Emily. Thanks.
So tell me a little bit more about your work, especially as an educator today. I want to hear a little bit more, some highlights from the resume, and then we're going to go into like a fun warm-up exercise.
Sure. I teach graphic design at Maryland Institute College of Art, MICA in Baltimore. I teach mostly graduate students who are improving their skills and thinking around visual communication.
That's
And I
excellent.
love it.
And you're also a prolific baker, I've seen recently too.
I love baking. I love baking for my students and for other people I love in my life. And I have a few bites myself.
Wonderful. Well, I want to talk a few minutes about your book, Health Design Thinking, and about that project and the work that you did related to healthcare now a couple of years ago, right? Right at the
Mhm.
start of the pandemic. So tell us how you got pulled into the healthcare sector, whose fault that was, and then about the work that you did with physicians and people interested in the healthcare space.
Yeah, so I have a longstanding interest in accessible design. And specifically, I did a project at Cooper Hewitt Museum on design for multisensory communication.
Mm.
That's very about beauty and aesthetics and experience, but also about creating accessible products for people with sensory disabilities.
Mhm.
And I did a book and a show called Beautiful Users about
Mhm.
user-centered design, including some healthcare products. So serendipitously, I met Bon Ku, who was director of the Health Design Lab at Jefferson University. We just met at a conference. We were on a panel together. And he said, "Oh my God, I have this book that you wrote in my backpack." It was my book, Design is Storytelling. And he said, "I've always wanted to do a book about healthcare design." I said, "Well, let's do
Uh-huh.
it together because I'm not a doctor, but I certainly know how to make books
Yeah.
about design, about design thinking and making, not journalism, but like
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
into the process and the principles, the methodologies. So we had a great time producing that book together and using our mutual expertise and mutual
Mhm.
respect for each other to create a kind of handbook for
Amazing.
health design.
And the focus, I think, was really about teaching physicians and clinicians to think like designers. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think that was our primary market, but we're also interested in designers, design professionals and exposing them to
Mm-hmm.
how design processes can relate to this huge field, and also to people in the insurance industry and the counseling industry. And there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that touch on medicine that aren't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily doctors and nurses, but pharmacists and um, social workers. And there's so many people involved in the process of delivering
Yeah.
hopefully better healthcare experiences to individuals and communities.
We certainly need a lot of help on that.
Right? Ah,
As we've unfortunately both, I mean, like everybody, we've all had our healthcare experiences where you're just like, is this really somebody created it this way on purpose?
yeah.
Can you remember anything that really surprised you about the healthcare space compared to working in other sectors or with other types of professionals?
Well, it's very interesting the focus on evidence-based
Mm,
research and design industries tend to be more intuitive and more um, gut feelings
mm,
and but to make a really successful healthcare product, you also have to demonstrate that it has empirical, measurable benefits,
Mhm.
which is notoriously difficult to do. Like, for
Yeah.
example, graphic designers for 120 years have tried to prove that serif typefaces are more legible than sans serif typefaces,
Mhm.
or vice versa.
Mhm.
And no one has succeeded in proving one of those hypotheses, which
Yeah.
doesn't mean that people don't have distinct experiences around them. So
Yeah.
someone could have like a more positive, less traumatic experience in a hospital room with windows and nice furniture, and you
Mhm.
still can't prove that they healed more quickly or that they had a
Mhm.
lower death rate. It's just very hard to put a number
Mhm.
on everything that
Mm.
is beneficial.
Yeah. So
There's
you
so many
end
things
up
that are
sort
just
of with,
common
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But
And so
like
the result of
obviously
the
having a
design just is like
window.
somebody picks something and they're like, that's fine. So because they can't
Right.
prove better design, then you kind of end up with like default design sometimes.
Yeah, or often what we always did, which is beige.
Yes,
You
there's a lot
know,
of beige.
and so if you can't prove to me that it's better to make the window bigger, then we're not going to make it
Hmm.
bigger.
Hmm. Yeah. And so I think you shared with me before around some of the frustration of trying to create change in healthcare because it is a really obstinate kind of sector. It's not as free flowing sometimes in terms of the types of things that it experiences. Was that your experience, like that you kind of hit some blocks or some hesitation towards making changes?
Well, our book is like principles and methods,
Mm-hmm.
and often geared towards learning and experimenting and not necessarily you're making a
Mm-hmm.
final product.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have a set of case studies that are about real things that really got produced and
Yeah.
maybe did or did not succeed in the marketplace, but real, fully
Yeah.
developed products and services.
Yeah.
And just some of the comments that we would hear from people is that, wow, it's just really hard, even if you have a great idea, to actually change
Yeah.
anything. It
Because
can be
it's not just
discouraging.
design and implementation and like you said, evidence-based, but also fitting into the economic design of healthcare in this country, which is not.
And regulations
Yes. Yeah.
and who's in charge of purchasing, certain supplies for the hospital. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like during the COVID pandemic, the move to manufacture masks domestically. And then it
Mm-hmm.
was really hard for those factories to actually sell to hospitals because they were already buying Chinese masks
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to make the switch.
Yeah.
It was too
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
The things that just seem like obvious wins it's hard to make it happen.
Yeah, it is a frustrating sector, although as I wrote about in my book, there are so many artists and designers who are really powerful in trying to make those changes, but it certainly is not easy. Anybody coming into the sector and saying, I'm just going to make something better, it's a journey, but it's a worthy journey.
Yeah.
It's a fun journey. All right, well, I would love to pull up some fonts and logos that we have prepared for you to weigh in on with your
Oh,
amazing
fun.
typography skills. Kind of a little speed round, warm up exercise here. So hold on, let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, and then I'm gonna go here. Excellent. Okay. So I have a couple things, and I have deep history with these organizations, but I'm very curious, and maybe you do as well, but to get your design perspective on like, what are these companies trying to say with their typography, with their colors, with their fonts? And what do you think they're succeeding at doing? So
So
our,
I'm just seeing a white screen. Oh, there we go.
yeah, there we go. This is the first one. So tell me, what's your reaction here?
Ugh. I hope this isn't your client.
None of
Um,
these are my clients.
so Epic is a software company that, controls the healthcare records of
Hmm.
millions of Americans.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's a a logo that really looks stuck in the 70s, which is probably when it was designed. I think it's trying to look, forward moving because it's slanted,
Leaning towards the
but
future.
it's really not very effective. And it certainly looks like a legacy logo, not a contemporary or updated or
Future.
valid today logo. Like, look at the negative space between the E and the P.
Yeah.
This might remind you of the infamous arrow in the FedEx logo, where there's this arrow that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's kind of wonderful because the arrow is cool.
Yeah.
But here it's like, what is that? What is that shape?
And it's not balanced, that it's skinnier on this vertical.
No, right. So they could have shortened the crossbar of the E to make that magnet shape.
I'm also curious
more
about the white
harmonious.
space with the P, right? With like why it's not centered more or like more rounded. It has like an interesting, it almost has like an organic look to it, right? Like the white space in there.
It's probably just based on the font, and that the font, a lot of fonts, the round shapes, especially when it's a very, very heavy weight, they lighten up the stroke near the vertical so that counter, the empty space in the P doesn't get too small. But then when you make this giant logo, our eye really goes to that. So it's supposed to just be an adjustment.
Yeah.
So that you don't really notice it getting skinny there.
Right.
But here, because everything is kind of so hypertrophic, it just looks kind of poorly designed, poorly drawn.
Sorry to our friends at Epic for this one. They've had this logo for, like you said, for a long time.
Time for an upgrade.
Time for an update. Yeah. Are there parts of this that you would keep if you were having them start fresh?
Certainly keep the color, because that will help people realize they're still using the correct product. Right. So there's a lot you can do to change the basic shape of a logo without shocking people. And you don't want to shock people in healthcare.
Yeah.
This is something used every day, and you don't want it to suddenly change. So I think they could change that negative space around the crossbar of the E. That would be big right there. I think it would just be nice to have space between the letters, but then you would miss that kind of cool thing at where the E and the P, that little corner, like the 4 states that share a corner. Like, that's nice.
The checkerboard almost.
Yeah, so you don't want to lose that, but the rest of it,
I think if I'm looking at it, the dot on the I doesn't line up also with the top of the E.
Right.
Which just
that's a tough one. It's probably just because that's how the font is. Often the dot of an I.
Right.
It's just
There's
a little different.
things that you could do here just to tighten it up.
Yes, definitely.
Well, hopefully Judy is listening. I think she's a fan. So
I'm sorry if I'm causing you problems.
No, there's a lot of people, all the clinicians in the world who are logging into this every day, I'm sure would share some of your opinions of what can maybe get pulled in a little bit better here. Okay, let's look at our next one. So very different in font choice, very different in color. What do you think what decade are you pegging this one at?
Well, I think that the icon, this U thing that looks a little bit like a shield, but also has this kind of 3D component, I'd put that in the 70s too. But I think the typography part feels contemporary, sort of neatly stacked, this serif typeface, but it has a lot of weight to it. The danger with serif fonts in a logo is that the thin strokes get too skinny when you reduce it in scale. So it has heft,
Mm-hmm.
And I think earlier versions of this logo had United Healthcare all on one line, which is just too much because it's just
Very
too
long.
wide and you can't shrink it down. You can't, it's very hard to use a logo that's like 20
Mm-hmm.
feet long. So stacking it makes it, just function better as a graphic
Mm-hmm.
device. I think this is pretty good. I also
Yeah.
think the simplicity of just blue and white is very nice. I
It's
think
giving you
an
kind of
older
like a
version had some
painting.
gray in it, and I think it's better, just clean and two
Yeah.
colors, just very simple.
For an organization that is so vast across all of healthcare, it makes sense that they have a logo and some type choices here that are pretty broad, right? And just being sort of authoritative and safe is how I
And
interpret.
readable,
Mm-hmm.
direct,
Mm-hmm.
not mysterious.
It is a nice blue too. It's a little
Very
dark.
nice, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our next one. So this is 150 years old, but a new version.
Uh-huh.
Evolved over time. So tell me what your thoughts are here.
Well, the core idea is just wonderful. This word over, making a cross
Mm-hmm.
and the symmetry of the Y becoming this fulcrum, this axis, this point of connection between the vertical and the horizontal, and the cross is a traditional symbol of healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels very stable, and the fonts are beautiful. And it's legendary, right? It's a very old logo that
Mm-hmm.
even though the details have changed, this basic thing with the cross and the circle is probably 75, 80 years old. I don't know the whole history of it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
classic. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess what they did recently is made the circle in color.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, personally, I don't need that because I love the core design
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, it makes it feel more playful and
Mm-hmm.
digital, right? What do you think about it?
I mean, I think the green and the blue to me feel very 2005,
Mm.
2002, kind of like millennial. Um, those colors and like the swooshes. That was kind of the period
Mhm.
of time where we saw a lot of like all the college mascots got updated to having swooshes around them,
Uh-huh.
right? So there's some kind of like millennial feeling like energy to the way that the colors are chosen and like the swooshing.
Uh-huh. It
But
looks a
yeah,
little
I
like a
agree with you.
washing machine.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that they didn't lose though the Bayer cross, right? Because
The
that's
core of it is there. And like this logo was engraved into pills
yeah, yeah.
to show the authenticity of
Mm-hmm.
pills. So talk about a symbol of trust, which is
Mm-hmm.
what logos are originally, was to show that you were getting the real thing from a
Mm-hmm.
company with an address, whether it was breakfast cereal or a
Mm-hmm.
potion.
Mm-hmm.
And that by having it packaged and identified, you would trust it, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
trust it so much that it's engraved in your medications. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But to me, that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It
But
could have been just kept it simple, right? Without
uh-huh.
the blue and the green, which
Hmm.
feels a little like, yeah, sports teamy to me. But I
Yeah.
am glad that they kept it. I'm sure there were parts of that conversation where they were deciding, like people were probably advocating to get rid of the cross, even though it is such a lasting part of their
No,
history.
no, it's so good. And the way the A and the Y match each other, it's just very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And it is part of history
Mm-hmm.
without feeling old-fashioned or dated like the Epic logo, which
Mm-hmm.
feels dated. This feels classic and
Mm-hmm.
timeless. Even
Mm-hmm.
adding that circle, like they could change those colors in 5 years and they still have a classic
Yeah.
core to the logo.
Yeah, it would be pretty easy to shift those tones to being a little bit more in line with the navy, right? And a little bit more
Mhm.
modern versus like that lime green. We have some clients that we've been taking through the lime greenification of their brands, right?
Oh, really? So is that
Yeah.
a trend now after Brat Girl Summer? We're getting rid of lime.
Right, I know it's like it finally came back around, but it is time just to let it go.
It
But
is time. Yeah.
Okay, and our last one, another 150-year-old iconic
Mm,
choice.
wow, making me sad. Oh,
Interestingly, there's some
yeah.
history of this with the red that Johnson and Johnson and the Red Cross actually sued each other over being able to use
Really?
the Red Cross. And it was eventually settled out of court. But there was a long lawsuit of like who owned.
When was that?
I have to look and see if the lawsuit wasn't settled like all that long ago, but both of the companies started using it around like the 1880s, around then. Let me see, I can do
Mm.
that for you exactly. Yeah, the iconic, I mean, just such a healthcare color now, like completely indistinguishable. So they both started using it in 1880s, and then in 2007 they settled out of court finally.
Oh, it's hardly even a cross.
Yeah, right. But the
It's
color,
like a
the
cursive
red and the
thing.
cross that they use on Band-Aids and things like that,
Uh-huh.
that goes along with
Yeah.
this. That was what they fought
Okay.
over for
Uh-huh.
literally 100 years.
Well, the original logo is just beautiful, but I can understand why it feels like it is from a past era and a
Mhm.
company that's trying to modernize and get into medical devices and more high-tech things and not,
Mhm.
the baby powder that they no longer make because it
Mhm.
is not good for babies.
Yeah.
Oops. So I can understand in this case why you have to let go of that, the beauty of it. Plus kids
Mhm.
aren't learning cursive anymore. So you're seeing a lot of cursive logos becoming,
Mm.
just Roman, you know.
Feeling a little
So
too.
the new one, at least the font they chose has a little bit of thick and thin dimension to it. It's not
Mhm.
just Helvetica, it has a little bit of delicacy. It's
Yeah.
pretty nice ampersand. Has some fluidity to it. So it's sensitively done.
Do you think that it feels all the way contemporary, or it's sort of pulling you into like, has almost like a mid-century, a little bit feel to me?
Yeah, and I just think the name isn't contemporary. Two
Mhm.
dudes.
Right.
So it's still a signature. It's still these guys and all on one line. Again, a very long logo that's hard to apply.
hmm
Um, but it's fine. I think you want to keep that heritage to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They often go in the tech world, like it's like the J&J always, right? Not Johnson and
Mm-hmm.
Johnson, right? Because they try to
Uh-huh.
splinter off into being a little cooler. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder if that they couldn't, I mean, there's a bit of it, but the ampersand is so distinctive on the old one that, I wonder if they debated doing a little bit more with it here. Um, it kind of,
Yeah, here it looks like, probably an original design, the
hmm
ampersand. It has a lot more heft.
hmm
I think it's pretty well done
Yeah.
considering that it's very quiet.
Yeah. This was obviously a big
Hmm.
project. They didn't
Yeah, it's a
have
lot, a
somebody
lot
do
goes
this.
into this.
Yeah.
You know,
Wonderful. So of these logos, do you have a favorite that we've covered?
well, the buyer logo is
That's
just
your
such a
favorite.
great, it's just a
Yeah.
brilliant, simple thing.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
lovely.
It really feels like a pill. It immediately says healthcare to you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Wonderful.
it's
Well, thank you so
wonderful.
much
Yes.
for diving in on those with me. Do you have any other favorite healthcare logos that have stood out to you, or healthcare brands that have, you think, maybe above average design?
Um, that's a good question. I don't really think that much about the branding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the book I did with Bon Ku, it's more about the function and what
Yeah,
things are trying to achieve.
right. There's not a lot that's happening really well in our space sometimes, right? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
although there's a history of pharmaceutical advertising being kind of innovative, in the 50s and 60s,
Mhm.
and using
Mhm.
like abstract motifs to
Mm.
suggest psychological states. And so there's a whole history of pharmaceutical branding that's intriguing, but I think now it's pretty conservative.
It feels, I mean, even compared to the health technology space I work in, which is pretty
Uh-huh.
outdated, pharma and life sciences brands feel extra.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's a lot of, people holding hands walking on the beach and the same kind of
Uh-huh.
like logo with like a swoosh going over
Right.
the top of it. Yeah. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I'm actually also just looking like, here's one. I mean, this is a very modern company, but Change Healthcare, right? With
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
try to keep it like down, but with the little
Yeah, it's kind of
triangle
neat.
on it. There's, that's a pretty good one, but there's not
Yeah,
a
it's nice.
that's like highly innovative in our space yet.
Mhm.
We're gonna work on it. So tell me about your interest in, would you still have an appetite for doing healthcare type projects and like an eagerness to get back into our space, or you're more interested in continuing to explore other systems and other sectors?
Oh yeah, I'm interested in healthcare, but especially collaborating with others because
Mhm.
I'm not a healthcare provider and I have never designed a healthcare brand. I'm a writer and design
Yeah.
educator.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I enjoy doing workshops with Bonku and
Mhm.
for medical people at the health design lab. So, yeah, sure. I love all that stuff.
So I
Yeah.
want to shift gears a little and talk about your prolificness when it comes to not just writing books, but also creating, videos and becoming a social media guru. Because I know for myself, so I have two books now, and that the second book was very, very hard to write. The first one was easier because you didn't know.
Really? So why was the second one harder?
For me, the second was harder because I knew now what I was doing. I didn't have the benefit of hubris and
Mhm.
naivete. I knew I knew that, like, what it would take to do it, and that I had to really invest time in it, and that it could be so much better than the first one that I wrote, which was also great. But I'm curious, is that just like a second book thing? After you get to book 20 or 30, does it get easier again? Or is this just like your secret
Mm.
superpower that you're able to just create so many pieces of work without maybe getting overconsumed by having them be
Mm.
just exactly perfect?
Well, they're all different. And a lot of my books are collaborative. I've written
Hmm.
books in collaboration with my students, with
Hmm.
other curators at Cooper Hewitt, with
Hmm.
co-authors from different backgrounds. And that the collaborative nature is really fun and
Hmm.
gets you excited and moving. I think
Hmm.
what's harder is writing a book entirely yourself
Yeah.
because you have to get up every day and move it along when you're doing
Yeah.
a lot of other things too. So I'm not writing a book right now. I'm kind of like in
You're taking a
between.
pause.
Yeah, it takes courage to
Yeah.
jump back in. And I have a book that came out in March called Thinking with Type, the
Hmm.
third edition of a textbook I've spent
Hmm.
many years updating and improving. And right now I don't, I have a bunch of ideas and offers, but I haven't like taken the plunge to really
It is a commitment, right? Starting
yeah,
a
and
book,
yeah, and
it's
I'm
a
not
commitment. You're
sure.
going to spend a bunch
Yeah.
of time writing it. You're going to spend a bunch of time promoting it. You shouldn't just like jump into it.
And they don't all succeed,
Mhm.
and I haven't figured out what the secret sauce is that makes some books succeed and others kind
Mm.
of disappear.
Mm.
So
Which
it's a
one is your
lot.
most successful?
Well, Thinking with Type is my most successful book over
Mm.
many years.
Mm.
I did
Mhm.
the first edition in 2004 and then updated it in 2010 and just now in 2024. And that's like, it's just evergreen. It's been in many languages. It's just widely known. I meet so
Mhm.
many people in the graphic design space who say they have the book or they read the book or they read it in school. I do think that writing for specific audiences is very valuable. That trying to write for everyone is much harder. And same with social media, like having a niche.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to be famous. You know?
Yeah, right. I mean, to
Right?
write a great American novel versus writing
Very difficult. Not doing that. Not this week.
yeah. Is there a book that you wrote that you thought was going to be more popular than it ended up being, or that's like your pet favorite?
No, I mean, I'm pleased with how things have done.
Mhm.
I did a book called Extra Bold, a feminist, inclusive, non-binary, anti-racist field guide for graphic designers.
Oh my goodness.
That came out in 2022 with 7 co-authors and 30 some contributors.
Wow.
And it came out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So like all the book events were online, which was
Mhm.
really cool because then all the co-authors could participate in the events, but it makes it really hard to sell books. So that's like continued to steadily have an audience. But I think if it had appeared during more live events, we would have sold more books in the beginning, you know.
Yeah. I'll have to check
Yeah.
that out. It sounds
It's
really
really good. And very
Oh,
collaborative, like many of my
yeah.
projects are like lots of people coming together to create something.
Amazing. And tell
Yeah.
me about your writing process. Are you, do you have a very strict process of, there was an author I recently saw speak who gets up at 4 in the morning, has his cup of coffee, and writes only a single page a day, and then stops before he credited that it was his guide to like not getting writer's block, because he like really limited himself, like how much he could write every day. Do you have a process like that
No.
for writing?
No, a lot of my books I also design. So I'm often writing in a layout with the pictures and examples so that I'm able to see, instead of like referencing some figure number, I'm actually looking at the actual page. And you can then adjust the content to fit or to flow or to be more or to be less.
Ah,
And so that's kind of
like a secret
unique.
weapon to doing these quickly, that you're doing it in the
It's
layout.
very efficient.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's quick exactly because you're doing a lot of stuff that normally authors don't have to do. But I feel like in the normal workflow of writing a book where the author has to create a manuscript with an independent list of captions
Yeah.
and references and a big folder full of JPEGs that are rationally named so that then it can
Like
be
raw
handed to a
material.
designer.
Yeah.
Yeah, raw material, but highly cooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like it's not raw because
Yeah.
you have to, if you have
Yeah.
300 pictures, you have to know exactly what they are and imagine how they're going to flow with the text. But if you're designing the layout, you can go, oh, this is too many pictures, or I really
Yeah.
just need one hero image and I should get a different one.
And if you're only one column or, 2 columns of
Yeah.
text, it's so much less than it seems if you're writing in a document,
I
right?
know, and then you have too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
maybe I'll try that for my next book. That sounds intimidating, but it does sound like
no, it's very empowering because, and then when you want to make a change, you just make the change. You're not begging a graphic designer to stop their other project to come back to fix your layout. When you can make it better, I highly recommend it
That
for
is a
people with
really,
the skills like you.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. It does sound, because it is daunting if you sit down to just write text an entire book's
Mhm.
worth of text, it does feel like way too hard, right?
Much harder
Yeah.
than seeing a layout full of
Yeah.
beautiful content and
Yeah.
writing to the content.
Amazing. So as we start to wrap up here, I want to hear about some of the things that are inspiring you, and what you might be thinking about in terms of new projects or new areas of focus. So, what are you reading right now? Are you listening to anything good? Thinking about any kinds of projects that are maybe a little bit different?
Well, I'm very into baking, as you mentioned, and I'm really interested in how baking is a metaphor for design.
Mm.
More than a metaphor, it actually is design. Like
Mhm.
baking is planning, it is painting and sculpture,
Mhm.
it is communication, it is
Precision. Mhm.
precision, getting something
Mhm.
right, manufacturing it,
Mhm.
repeating, getting consistent results. All the things that we talk about as designers, but with this playful element, this
Mhm.
joyful element. So I've been doing these short videos on Instagram that teach different principles in typography, kind of
Mhm.
graduate level principles, but with a kindergarten voice, and they're very accessible. And I've gotten a nice following and lots of love for it, the occasional troll. And
Yeah.
it's been really fun. And it just,
Some of the
after doing
baking
so
is,
many books, I
yeah.
love the lightness and quickness
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and the bigger audience, the
Hmm.
accessibility of
Hmm.
a 60-second video. It's fun. Yeah.
And you edit and you produce and edit your own videos as well, talking about you literally writing and laying out your books as you write them. You're like the one man band,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Because that's what makes it fun. And then you can control it and get it
Mhm.
right. And if you have to sub out your B-roll with something new, you just shoot something new. And you're not trying to explain that to someone
Yeah,
who's busy with other things.
you're a one-man
The
band.
best way. Yeah.
And so your
DIY.
baking is thematic to famous artists, right? You have, I know here at SF MoMA, they have in the cafe, there's like a Mondrian cake, right? That's
Yes, that's
got
very
the
famous.
grid. So you're doing these like kind of playful interpretations of some artists, is that right?
Yeah, I do a lot of this with my friend Jenny Tobias, and we've done cookies based on
Mhm.
Sonia Delaunay, and we call it Sonia Dolaunay. And she did these great things with circles and interlocking circles. So, or Ani Albers, the textile designer, or
Mhm.
different Bauhaus artists like
Mhm.
Kandinsky and Moholy-Nagy. And so it's really fun to look at their artwork and to think what technique in baking could reflect that. And it's not just
Mhm.
like squirting icing all over a cookie and
Yeah.
reproducing something, but like how can you structurally
Mm.
create something that reflects the artist's process? It's really fun.
Oh, getting deep. I like it. Maybe your next
Yeah, it's
book
very
then.
neat. Yeah, I have a few little zines that we're
Uh-huh.
publishing, and I'm working on a poster for the holiday season called Cookie Utopia. That's sort of an infographic of
Amazing.
baking lore, but presented
Hmm.
as this beautiful tree of life.
Oh
It's
my
fun.
goodness. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I can't wait to
it's
see that.
really new, really different for me. Yeah.
Baking as a design medium is a
Yes.
really interesting place to be
Hmm.
exploring.
It's really fun. It's
Yeah.
intoxicating.
Oh my goodness. Do you have favorite bakers that you get inspiration from as well?
Yeah, I follow many bakers on Instagram, which is just
Mhm.
so inspiring. There's people that just do incredible things.
Mm.
And then, of course, New York Times, Claire Saffitz, and,
Yes.
you
Mhm.
know,
Mm.
many, many great people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a theory that people either come as you're a good cook or a good baker, but very rarely both. And I am very much a cook and not a baker. I'm not precise.
I
I
held that view for most of my life.
and not
And
true.
well, it's really just the last year or so that I said,
Uh-huh.
I want to try baking.
Uh-huh.
And I do think they're very different. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that makes baking so fun is that it's not about serving people. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you taking time in your kitchen to create something that
Mm-hmm.
might be served later. It's not
Okay.
like, whereas cooking is like, I've got the vegetables, I've got the meat, I've got this, I've got that, and it's all got to come out
Yeah.
on the table, and it's this sort of crescendo, like the
Yeah.
bear, and it's like all systems go to
Yeah.
get this thing, and then you serve it.
Uh-huh.
Baking is like you're making an object.
It's more
Sometimes you just throw it
sculptural.
away. It didn't work out,
Yeah.
It's more experimental, really.
I think that for me is the experience of having to have thrown out some stuff along the way that has taken me off of the baking path, but maybe you'll inspire me to try again.
It's fun when you have the time. I'm, older and my kids are growing up and I have the time to play with it.
That's really
And
fun.
it's something that I couldn't do 10 years ago.
Uh-huh. Any
It's
other
fun.
inspirations, things you're reading or podcasts you're listening to right now that you want to share?
Um, I'm enjoying novels like, all fours, like we all read.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading a lot of literature.
Yeah.
I like reading fiction. I listen to it mostly.
Oh, okay.
It's fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have become recently huge into nonfiction, but I'm trying to find
Yeah.
back to fiction a little bit. Yeah.
I
So,
like listening to podcasts. I don't really like listening to written nonfiction. I find it hard to follow. Whereas
but the
because
story.
podcasts
Yeah.
are conversational,
Uh-huh.
they're easy to follow in an audio
Nice.
form.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I need to, yeah, I should get into audiobooks. This is
it's so fun.
we're actually coming out with an audiobook version of my book soon. And so I'm getting hold of
Congratulations.
that and like the other side of it, how you record and create it.
And are you
For a book that's
recording
highly
it?
visual, we're like, how are we going to describe?
Well, that makes it accessible because you describe the
Hmm.
pictures. So I've
Yeah.
done some of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
It's an interesting
interesting.
challenge. And also
Mm,
because it's a book that's a collaboration. So how do I make it clear that it's not just one person's perspectives all the way through?
mhm.
How do you create that idea that there's multiple
Yeah.
voices here, right? Without having necessarily like 30 different readers.
Uh-huh.
So we're working on it. But all these
Good.
ideas are so fun to explore. And I
Uh-huh.
like the idea too, so much faster to be able to put a book out that's digital or that's an audiobook or something that's quick, like you said, with using your video, versus
Ah,
a traditional book, which is, a 2 or 3 year project often,
it
right?
is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for playing with typography with us today and
Oh, thank
your
you,
insights
Emily.
in healthcare and hopefully inspiring me to do some baking. We'll see how I feel about it next time I try to cook
It's fun,
something.
but no pressure. It should just be fun.
Where can people find out more about you and follow you online? Like what would you like to shout out to?
On Instagram, I'm at Ellen Lupton, and I have a website, ellenlupton.com.
Mhm. And get your new book as well.
Yeah, it's all on there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Emily. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Bye-bye.